Hello everybody, welcome to today's webinar about the water activity management. Today we'll talk about the water activity, the difference between the water activity and the moisture content. What is the water activity and how it's different from the moisture content. Besides, we'll talk about the water activity and microbial growth. Okay, I'll try to fix the problem. Can you hear me now? Hello, can you hear me now?
Hello.
Okay.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Can you hear us? Okay, thank you. So today we'll talk about the water activity and the moisture content. Besides, we'll talk about the relation between the water activity and the microbial growth. Then we'll talk how we can make instrumental determination for the water activity. My colleague Maria will proceed. I'll start first with defining the water activity, differentiate between the types of water present in food, the bound water versus the free water, and differentiate between the moisture content and the water activity. Then my friend Maria will proceed. So, here is the outline. We'll talk about what is water activity and how it is different from the moisture content, how the water activity. Okay, would you please fix the voice issues and thanks. I want to ask if the problem is from Muhammad's device or others are hearing me. Okay, Muhammad, maybe the problem is from your device because they are entering by yes. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay. So, Muhammad, maybe the problem in the device you are using. So, would you please fix it? Okay. I re-mentioned the outline. We'll talk about what is water activity and how it is different from the moisture content. Then we'll talk about the water activity and microbial growth and how can the water activity overcome moisture-related challenges. And finally, we'll talk about the instrumental determination of the water activity. Okay. First of all, please notice that 1/3 of our food goes to waste, and as per people are starving. And the reasons for this food waste is mainly the shelf life is expired and the food is contaminated by mold, bacteria, and pathogens, besides the overproduction problem. So, it's all about optimizing production, so you can put thousands of dollars in your company's pocket, knowing that the shelf time and chemical physical properties of the product will lead to constant quality and thus more consumer trust, and this will lead to more dollars on your company's pocket. So, the one parameter that we can fix is the water activity in order to help in solving this problem. Because the water activity can help you to minimize the microbiological risk and optimize the shelf life Besides, it finds measures to keep physical properties of the product and reducing possible chemical reactions in your product. So please, let me start with defining the water. Water is one of the most important factors controlling the rate of deterioration of the food, either by microbial or non-microbial effects. And throughout history, man has controlled the water activity of food throughout drying and addition of salt and sugar, or by freezing. And all of this let the food become more stable to microbial and chemical deterioration. And these methods prevent the spoilage and maintain the food quality. So we have two types of water in the food: the free water and the bound water. Please let me give you a brief idea about the difference between free water and the bound water. Because water is abundant in all living things and consequently in almost all the food types, we have to control the amount of water present in the food. Because most natural food contains water up to 70% of the weight or greater, and in the vegetables and fruits, the amount of water is 90% or greater. So, the water that can be extracted easily from the food by squeezing or cutting or pressing is known as the free water, whereas the water that cannot be extracted easily is termed as the bound water. So we have two types: the bound water and the free water. The one that we can get rid easily by dehydration or by cutting or by pressing is the free water, and the bound water is the one that we cannot get rid of. So the bound water is usually defined in terms of the weight it's measured, and different methods of measurement give different values for bound water in particular. So many food constituents can bind or hold water molecules such that they cannot be easily removed and they do not behave like the liquid water. And some characteristics of the bound water including that it is not free to act as a solvent for salt and sugars, and this will prevent the chemical reaction. It cannot be frozen only at very low temperature. It needs a temperature below the freezing point of water. Besides, it exhibits essentially no vapor pressure, and the density of it is greater than that of free water. So we can get rid of the free water, however the bound water we cannot. And the bound water has more structural binding than the liquid or the free water, and it is unable to act as a salt. So, I've mentioned the free water and the bound water in order to let you know the difference between the water activity and the moisture content. Because when it comes to the food safety and the quality, there are two critical measurements that all food manufacturers should take: the moisture content and the water activity. And while these measurements might sound similar, they are not the same and they are not interchangeable, because the moisture content and water activity are measured for two different purposes. And even if the water activity is your primary concern, accurate moisture content analysis is essential in meeting the established standards. So I'll talk first about the moisture content. The moisture content is the measurement of the total amount of water contained in food, including the free water and the bound water. It is usually expressed as a percentage of the total weight. It is useful for the measurement for determining the dry weight of the food and ingredients, and it helps calculate your total yield. Besides, it can also be used to confirm whether the drying process of your food is finished for those products that get dehydrated. And since most raw material cost is based upon weight, so manufacturers typically try to use as much as water as possible while staying within the legal limit. So by performing a simple moisture content test on incoming raw ingredients, you can ensure that you are not overpaying for the free water. I hope you understand the moisture content. So the moisture content is the total amount of water present in the food. It is the amount of the free water besides the bound water. Likewise, your food moisture content will have a direct effect on the way your food is processed, mixed, and dried, as well as the mouthfeel, appearance, and the texture of the final product, such that excess moisture can make your product runnier than the desired and create clumping and dry mixes, neither of which is appealing to your consumers. To give a better idea of the moisture content of your ingredients, I'll give you a few examples about the moisture content in some ingredients. For example, the moisture content in orange is 87%. However, in the apple, it's 84%. In the beef, the raw beef, it is 73%. In the cookies, it is 6%. I'll talk now about the water activity. The water activity explains how the water in your food will react with microorganisms, such that the higher the water activity, the faster the microorganisms like bacteria, yeast, and mold will be able to grow, resulting in higher standards of food storage. So, the water activity, we care in the water activity for the amount of free water, because the more free water available, the more the bacteria and microorganisms will react, and this will lead to food deterioration.
Okay, so my name is Maria, and I'm a food technologist, and I work here at the technical sales department of Microda. I'm going to talk today. I'm going to share the PowerPoint, but I'm just introducing myself. I'm going to talk about the water activity, and especially the relationship between water activity and microbial growth. So I'm going to continue the same PowerPoint, and so this is my screen. And I'm going to turn off the video because of the quality of the sound and the PowerPoint. Okay, so here a quick difference between water activity and moisture content. It's an example about honey. The honey has 18% of moisture, while the cookie is a dry food. It has 5% of water. However, due to the presence of sugar in water, the water activity are the same, 0.6. For the applications of water activity, we can measure water activity to control microbial growth, to better formulate our products, to determine the moisture migration between ingredients, to determine the texture and the flow properties of our end product mainly, or the raw material, and to determine the chemical stability of the product. I'm going to explain each one at a time. So now we talked about the water activity and the moisture content. What's the water activity? The water activity is simply the ratio between the ratio of the water vapor pressure in any kind of food system to the water vapor pressure of pure water, ranging from 0 to 1. So the water activity is the pressure of the pressure of water in the product divided by the pressure of water in pure water. So it's a value without a unit here. Now I'm going to talk about the relationship between water activity and the stability of the reactions. For example, we have the Maillard browning, which is the browning of sugar. The Maillard browning, if the water activity of a certain product is less than 0.1, there's no browning reaction in the product. So when the water activity of a certain product will increase, the browning reaction will increase. Then to a certain point, to 0.6. Okay, to 0.6. So it's the maximum of the browning reaction. and after 0.6 the browning will decrease. Same for the lipid oxidation. From 0 to approximately 0.3, the lipid oxidation will decrease, and at a certain point, at 0.4, the the lipid oxidation will increase. For example, regarding the loss of crystalliness, the powder kinking and collapse, before when the water activity of a certain product is less than 0.3, there's no loss of crystalliness and kinking or collapse, and over 0.5. So the range between 0.3 and 0.5 is critical for food that they can collapse, or cake, or lose crystalliness, or biscuits, for example. So we have to find a certain balance, yes, between what we want for the product and what we can achieve, what water activity we can get. For example, I'm going to talk after about the mold, the yeast, and the bacteria. When we reduce the water activity of a certain product to less than 0.9, we reduce the multiplication of the bacteria, as well as for the yeast before 0, when the water activity is less than 0.8, and the same for the mold. I hope I was clear regarding this point.
Just to mention that the water activity range between 0 and 1, and the moisture content is a percentage. That is the wet weight minus the weight after drying over the wet weight times 100 for those who are interested in the work. So it is a percentage, however the water activity is unitless and range between 0 and 1.
Now, if we want to predict our shelf life, not to predict but to the equation, it's
the equation of the moisture content.
I will write it.
Okay, you write it now. It is the wet weight minus the weight after drying over the wet weight times constant. So it will detect the difference with it for drying. Wet weight minus weight after drying over the wet weight times constant, because it is a percentage. Okay, so you can find it here in the chat.
Okay, now regarding the shelf life of products, regarding the shelf life, we have the first question that we need to ask ourselves is what's the expected water activity of my product at a typical storage temperature? Because now I'm also going to talk about the temperature. The temperature will modify the water activity of product. So we need always to measure the water activity at the same temperature. Okay. So for example, if my product has a water activity of 0.70, okay, I need to ask myself at that water activity, what's the most likely mode of failure? I know, based on the previous graph, that between 0.7 and 0.85, there's a risk of microbial spoilage or chemical instability. So I need to for the HACCP, for example, I need to measure and to monitor the microbial spoilage and the chemicals of the product if it interests me. If the water activity is over 0.85, I need to monitor and to measure the microorganisms of my product. Now, if the water activity is between 0.04 and 0.7, I have chemical instability. The texture is modified and there's moisture migration between ingredients, or the moisture can migrate. So I need to monitor these mode of failure. If the water activity is less than 0.04 above 0.2, the texture will be modified and there might be caking and clumping. So So that's the mode of failure that I need to do better for the shelf life. And if the water activity is less than 0.2, there's mainly a chemical instability, and that's the main parameter that we need to monitor. Regarding the Maillard curve reaction, I have a question in the chat. The Browning reaction will increase if the water activity is more than 0.2. The more it will get higher, the more we add water, for example, the more the Browning reaction will increase.
And the peak will be at 0.6 water activity.
Yes, and if the water activity is over 0.8, the Maillard reaction will likely not happen. If someone has a question regarding what we talked about previously, or I'm going to finish everything and I will let a certain time for Q&A. Now I'm going to talk about the texture, the relationship between the texture and the water activity. So if I want to test the water activity of hard or crispy soda, these products will have a low water activity. They will break when physically stressed, like the biscuit, and they will be softened once exposed to water. So not only water, but to a certain product that has a higher water activity than the biscuit. For example, if I put with the biscuit, for example, chocolate chips, that if the water activity is high. Regarding the soft products, they have intermediate to high water activity. They bend when physically stressed, like the cake, the brownie. They are most juicy, tender, and chewy. They harden when exposed to a water activity that's below the water activity of the cake. Solution to maintain the texture: we have to keep water activity within the critical limit for proper texture. We need to prevent moisture migration in multi-component products. For example, the cornflakes. If we need to add inside the cornflakes other fruits, for example. And we use barrier packaging for inhibiting moisture transfer with the environment. So that's the main solution to maintain the texture if we have fragile texture. Now regarding the water activity and the microbial growth. Food safety is the first and most significant criteria that's accomplished by the control of microbial growth. So food safety equals stopping the microbial growth. So now I'm going to do a poll. Is it true or false? Lowering water activity lowering will kill microorganisms. I'm going to okay. If you want to answer. Okay, there are 7 attendees who didn't answer. I'm going to end the poll. Okay, so 54% said that it's false, low water activity will not kill microorganisms, and 46. Yes. Okay. So 54% said that low water activity will not kill the microorganisms, and 46% said that it will kill microorganisms. So the correct answer is 4. Water activity will not kill microorganisms. It will simply prevent the growth of microbes to a toxic level. It will stop the growth, but it will not kill them. The amount of available moisture can be reduced to a point which it will inhibit the growth of microorganisms, but will not kill the organisms that are already present inside.
Thank you for this.
Thank you. Now, talking about giving examples about each product and the related water activity. Dried food or milk will have a very low water activity, below 0.6. Flour will be 0.6 approximately, as well as honey. The more the water activity is high, the more the product is wet. When the water activity is over 0.6, we have a high risk of multiplication of mold and yeast. Over 0.85, we have a risk of multiplication of cocci and gram-positive over 0.9, and between 0.95 and 1 for approximately.
Okay, just one question. Can you see the screen or the screen?
Can you see my screen?
Can you see the screen or?
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Okay. So yeast and mold tend to be more resistant to water activity than bacteria. Most pathogenic bacteria in food can be stopped by water activity around 0.9. But to stop yeast and mold, it's necessary to lower water activity to as little as 0.6. As a result, the regulatory agencies in many countries are now beginning to define water activity standards for processing. I'm going to give examples about each microorganism and the water activity that the maximum water activity, the minimum water activity limit for the growth of each bacteria. For example, the Clostridium, when the water activity is lowered to less than 0.97, there's a little risk of multiplication of Clostridium botulinum, as well as E. coli, for example, to less than 0.95. Staph aureus, for example, to less than 0.9, and as well as the Staph aureus, aerobic Staph aureus to less than 0.8. And I need to mention that we need to have optimum conditions of pH, temperature, and humidity, of course, to be able to compare these water activity values. Regarding the mold, it's the same concept. The minimum water activity limit for the growth of the mold will be between 0.93 and 0.61, depending on the type of mold. For yeast, it's the same. We need to have water activity lower than 0.9, between 0.9 and 0.62. To inhibit the multiplication of yeast. I will give a quick example about the water activity. We can see it in our everyday life. For example, regarding the baked yeast, it's a yeast that's dried. And once water and a small amount of growth substrate, which is the sugar, are supplied, the yeast will begin to grow and to like this picture. So that's everyday example about water activity and the relationship between water and water activity. Now, how to reduce the water activity in food? First, we can dehydrate the product like sun drying. We can add edible fin and coating to keep the water from migrating between the different components in a composite samples. They are located on the surface or as thin layers between several parts within the product. This is a good example about the medicine. We can add additives to reduce the water activity. Additives like humectant and anti-caking agent. The humectants can be salt, sugar, glycol, amino acid polymer acids like citric acid and lactic acid. These humectants will bound the free water with these humectants and will reduce the water activity of the product.
So as the less the amount of water, the less the deterioration of the product.
And
this is the role of the humectant to reduce the amount of water.
Yes, and to keep them from migrating between different components. We can suggest a small combination between these solutions to find an optimal texture, flavor, taste, color of the final product. The edible fins are additives that we add as a thin surface, a thin layer on the food to reduce the risk of exchange of humidity between the food and the environment. Now I'm going to talk about the mode of action of the water activity and its relationship with the bacteria. The bacteria has a certain water activity. For example, this bacteria has a water activity of 0.95. The water activity, like we said earlier, it will move out. The water activity will move out to lower water activity. So the bacteria has a water activity of 0.5 and its environment has a water activity of 0.9. So the water activity will move from the bacteria to the environment. However, when we add amino acids, polyol, and sugar, the water activity will start to decrease inside the bacteria. At a certain level, it will be unable to reach equilibrium with the surrounding. So the microbe will remain in the lag phase with no growth, or will begin sporulation and go dormant, which can only be reversed by ideal environment condition, which is the addition of water. Okay. The presentation. Now we are going to quickly talk about the instrumental determination of water activity. The laboratory determination of water activity used to take hours. Now with the technology, it can take up to maximum 10 minutes. Water activity measurement by electrolytic sensor. They are based on characteristic response of an electrolytic sensor in equilibrium. Equilibrium is the balance between the water activity of the product and the water activity of the environment in a small chamber containing the sample. Novatena is a Swiss manufacturer of water activity measurement devices. They combine unique sensor technology in their instrument to improve quality management system and better control production. they can meet the EU regulation, which is ISO, and the FDA and AOAC regulation, which are the US regulation. They have many types of devices, from portable to benchtop types. Some companies that associate quality with Novatina, Barilla, for example, AstraZeneca, Pfizer, Kellogg's, Nestle, Lindt, all of these companies use water activity, use Novatina to monitor water activity of their products in liver. Novatina have 5 main water activity devices. Each water activity device will have an accuracy less or more improved. For example, the most advanced device is the Lab Master Lead. They have a temperature control. I'm going to talk about each one separately. But the idea of this slide is that the more the water activity device is advanced, the more the range of measurement will be higher and more precise. So first we have the Climate. The Climate is a handheld water activity device. As I said previously, the more the device the price is high, the more we have features, functions, accuracy, and versatility. We can use it for more types of purposes. First, the Climate. The Climate is a handheld device that the main advantage of the device is the price. It has a good sensor. We can log the data when taking the measurement. It's mobile. We get a sample card, and it's easily calibrated. However, there's no equilibrium. There's no temperature control. As I previously said, it's important to have temperature control, to have the same temperature during each measurement, so the product the same product will not have 2 different water activity values. Next, the second water activity device is the LabStart. The LabStart has a resistive electrolytic sensor. The range changes between 0.2 and 0.8. The accuracy is 0.03, and we can calibrate it through 2 points. From the advantages, the prices, the sensor, there's an LCD display. We get the equilibrium, and we can add protective filters. However, there's no temperature control. When we put the sample inside the device, there's not this in it. The temperature will be the same of the sample, the same temperature of the sample, and not the temperature of 25 degrees. So we need to put the sample at room temperature for a certain time to get the same result each time. There's no accuracy, there's no data logging, and low versatility. Next, we have the LabSwift. The LabSwift has the same sensor, the resistive electrolytic sensor. It ranges between 0.11 and 0.9. It's more accurate than the LabStart. The accuracy is 0.1. We can calibrate it through 5 points. From the advantages, the prices, the sensor, the equilibrium, and the protection sensor. However, there's no temperature control, and there's a limited range of products that we can test, and it's not advanced. Now, regarding the LabTouch, we can measure the water activity of a large product. There's an resistive electrolytic sensor. The range is between 0.6 and 0.97. We can calibrate it through 7 points. And from the advantages, the accuracy, the sensor.
Sorry Maria for interrupting. Mr. Atif is asking if we can elaborate on the equilibrium curve in the chart to be clarified.
Yes, but we keep this at the end of the session.
Okay, and I'm going to continue. There's no chamber cooling and there's no chamber seal, but there's no cooling, but if the sample is cold, it will higher the temperature. But if the sample is hot, there's no cooling. And finally, regarding the LabMaster Neo, it's the most advanced device. There's a resistive electrolytic sensor as well. It's more accurate. The accuracy is 0.003 and we can calibrate it through 9 points. So it's very accurate. This sensor is advanced. We have heating and we have cooling. There can be equilibrium. There's a user management. We can cleanse. It's robust and there are solution isotopes. Regarding the equilibrium, I'm going to talk about it later. Now I remember that I put a slide about it. Regarding the sample preparation, we have to cut the sample in little pieces to get a big surface. It will help to establish the equilibrium much quicker. We do not grind the sample in ceramic bowl because the ceramic absorbs water, so we can put it inside the cup that's special for the device and put it inside the device and do the measurement. Regarding the calibration, we have calibration salt. They are reusable. They can last between 2 and 5 years if handled correctly. This is an advantage because our other companies, the calibration salts are single-use calibration. The advantages of the LabMaster Neo, which is the most advanced device, we have combined accuracy and speed. We get accurate measurements for R&D and QA labs and fast measurements as well. We have foolproof verification and calibration because calibration standards are identified by RFID chip. The chamber is hermetically sealed. It's compliant to the FTA 21 CFR 11 with audit trail. It can record and show every task performed on the instrument that we can get a PDF about it and submit it to the FTA. But we have an interactive help menu that provides guidance to user at every stage, so it's very easy to use. How does Novatina instrument work? There's an exchange process, the exchange process ends in equilibrium. Equilibrium is when the energy of each side is constant, not amount of water. The energy, not the water. So air humidity, which is linked to water activity, is measured. Measuring speed depends mostly on the sample property. What is the equilibrium? Now I'm going to talk about it more specifically. First, we put the sample inside the cup, okay? And we put the cup inside the machine. The water activity of the cup, of the food, will start increasing. The machine will start measuring the water activity. We measure, the machine will measure the water activity of the product at a certain point and after 1 minute. If the difference between these two points is over 0.001, so the sample is not stable. The water activity is not stable. So we need to wait a bit longer, and when the difference between the water activity is less than 0.1 at a certain time during 1 minute, so we can say that the product is stable. This is the stability time, SST. So we have a stable water activity. This is how Novatina works. It measures the water activity at a certain time, and we need to have to get it constant during 1 minute. However, other instruments will give us a result after 5 minutes. And after 5 minutes, the added margin will be over 0.001 water activity. This is why Novatina is more accurate than their competitors. Now I'm going to give a small case study. A fruitcake manufacturer wants to predict conditions over time in her fruitcake during prolonged storage. She doesn't want the cake to get soggier as the fruit pieces get dry and hard. So what do you think is the best and easiest solution for her? She wants to predict the conditions over time. And there's fruit pieces inside the cake. So first she will measure moisture content in the cake and feed it. The cake contains 30% water, while the fruit piece has 50% water. She knows that water wants to come to equilibrium. The water will migrate. Now she can assume that water will migrate from the wetter ingredient into the drier ingredient. Regarding the temperature influence, Jim wants to measure various batches of salami. Critical limit for listeria is 0.92. Yesterday, the water activity was 0.91. Today it's 0.94. Yesterday it was inside the limits, but today it's 94. Yesterday the temperature was 25, and today the temperature is 22 degrees. Today's batch is okay? No. Do we need it to throw it away? No. It's the temperature that influences the water activity. So, is it the temperature or the production problem? It's the temperature influence. So that's why it's important to measure the water activity at 25 degrees each time to get an accurate water activity value. Today he fixed the temperature and he got water activity of 0.92. Problem could only be located due to eliminating temperature influence while comparing batches. As usage of water activity, first for microbial safety to predict health, for HACCP requirements as part of quality control, to fulfill governmental regulation like the EU regulation, the regulation of the Japanese, and to control chemical reaction and physical processes, to guarantee product quality, good taste, color, and taste. As a conclusion, water activity is an energy, it's qualitative and it's a driving force. The water activity is critical for microbial safety, physical safety, product formulation, chemical stability, and to predict shelf life. To reduce water activity, we can dry, freeze, or add solute. As a summary, how to reduce food waste, to return to our food waste problem. We can determine and control the risk of microbial contamination. We can find out the best storage condition and simulate what happens if you ship your goods around the world. We can estimate possible changes in physical product properties or chemical behavior and take measurements against it. Know the key parameters in hurdle technologies and make your food safe. All of this can be accomplished by measuring the water activity. We can combine everything by measuring the water activity. So that's it. If you have any question, please, you can raise your hand and we can allow you to talk, or you can write in the chat or the Q&A section. Okay, now you can.
Yes. My question to Maria is, can she elaborate on hurdle technology? You've expressed it in the different slides, but how can you better control hurdle technology, and how can you manage the equilibrium curve?
Okay, may I?
You mentioned it is controlled through packaging and through pH and through water activity. Can you elaborate, please?
Yes, I can help here. The hurdle technology is a method of ensuring that the pathogens in the food product can be eliminated or controlled. And this means that the food product will be safe for consumption. So the shelf life will be extended. These approaches can be thought as hurdles. So that's why it's linked as a hurdle technology to hurdle the pathogens and overcome it in the food.
I will give you an example about this. I will share.
It's mainly done to address the consumer demand for more nature and fresh food. It will help in this case.
Okay. Share screen. Okay, that's it. Okay, so as previously said, we have many obstacles. We have the temperature, we have the water activity, the pH, the humidity, or the pressure. So if I need to have a balance between these parameters, I have, for example, the temperature. The temperature is the first obstacle. So if I monitor the temperature, the second obstacle will be the water activity. I can control it and then pass to the pH. If I control the water activity, I higher it, and the pH can be higher, I can stop monitoring the pressure and the humidity. So the hurdle is the obstacle that we get while measuring the product and the quality of the product. And it's a way of determining the quality.
Yes.
I hope I was. Okay, we got a question in the Q&A section. I'm going to read it. Is it necessary to measure water activity in vegetable oil used in food cooking or direct consumption to ensure the oil's chemical, biological, microbial? Yes. What type of lab instruments or test procedures used to measure water activity in oil and regarding oil in mainly water activity
And also the water activity will be affected by the temperature, the saturation. And there are different parameters as in the case what she mentioned about the further. There are different parameters that we so mainly it's affected also, and the water activity in the oil is affected by a big parameter to the temperature.
So yes, it's better to measure the water activity in vegetable oil for cooking mainly and for direct consumption.
Explain what is the powder caking. The powder caking is when the powder particles become condensed and cracked over one another. They'll lost the texture and will be of good quality. This is mainly affected also, Lina, by the temperature and the humidity. For example, if you put the powder in a zone with high humidity, you see that you will have a powder particle. So, as previously mentioned in the curve, the milk powder was of low water activity around 0.6. Around 0.6. So you must be in this range, paying attention to the temperature and the humidity.